All right, today we are diving deep into a really profound philosophical text called the 16th Word. We're going to try and understand how it tackles some of the biggest, most mind-bending paradoxes about the nature of the divine. Questions like, how can one single being be everywhere at once? And how can something be created in an instant, but also be a masterpiece of unbelievably intricate art? Let's get into it.
So this verse right here really sets the stage for our entire discussion. It hints at a reality where you have this immense, almost unimaginable complexity, but it can also spring into existence instantly. It's a statement of absolute power that kind of seems to fly in the face of our everyday experience, right? I mean, nothing we make works like that. So how does the text even begin to reconcile this?
Here's how we're going to break it down. We're going to explore this whole thing through 4 key questions. It's set up to mirror a dialogue between, say, a skeptic and a wise guide. We'll start with the toughest paradoxes, and then, step by step, we'll move from that confusion toward a bit of clarity, using some really brilliant analogies from the text to help us out.
Okay, let's start with the first major puzzle. How can a single, unified being, who is said to be beyond space itself, be present literally everywhere and manage everything all at once, without any help?
The text frames this as a direct challenge to our normal way of thinking. I mean, how can something be singular and universal at the very same time? Our brains just naturally see those as two completely contradictory ideas.
So look at it this way. On one hand, you have this concept of absolute, total unity and singleness, a being that's not even confined by space. But on the other hand, you have this all-embracing universal presence that is somehow close to every single thing. How on earth can both of these possibly be true? To untangle this knot, the text offers a really powerful metaphor: light. The idea here is that a good analogy, a good comparison, acts like a mirror. It doesn't just show you an image, it actually helps you see a complex truth in a completely new and understandable way.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. The text builds its argument by breaking down the idea of reflection into 3 distinct types. First, you have a simple mirror, which gives you a lifeless, separate image. Then you have a luminous object, like the sun, where the reflection actually carries its qualities, like heat and light. And finally, you have luminous spirits, where the reflection is not only living, but it's identical to the original, and it can be present in many places at once. This step-by-step progression is the absolute key to the whole analogy. So through this model of reflection, a single thing, the sun, can be both one and universal. It exists in a single location, but its essence, its qualities, are present in countless places at the same time. Think of every dewdrop on the grass. We feel its closeness through its light and warmth, but we are impossibly, infinitely far from the actual star itself. This analogy gives us a really powerful mental tool for seeing how 2 seemingly opposite states can exist together. All right, so now that we have a way to think about one and many, let's look at another apparent contradiction. How can creation be both totally instantaneous, happening with the command be, and at the same time be a display of gradual, perfect, and incredibly intricate artistry?
And once again, the text presents 2 ideas that really seem to be in conflict. On one side, you have this incredible, absolute speed. Creation happens in a blink. On the other side, you have meticulous, perfect craftsmanship. In our world, speed and skill are almost always a trade-off. You can have it fast or you can have it good. So how can both be infinite here?
Well, the explanation we get is that this isn't a contradiction at all. The key is to see the difference between the initial creation of a thing and its continuous recreation. And to make this super clear, the text uses the analogy of a master craftsman.
And this just brilliantly illustrates the idea. The intense, painstaking artistry is all in the initial design, the blueprint for the entire universe. But once that perfect model exists, the command be applies to the rapid, continuous recreation of things based on that blueprint. Just think about spring, right? The original model for a flower is a work of pure genius, but every year, millions of them are recreated with what looks like effortless speed.
This brings us to our third paradox, and this one is a lot more personal. It really builds on the analogies we've already looked at. It deals with our relationship to the divine. How can God be closer to us than our own jugular vein, but also be separated from us by what tradition calls 70,000 veils?
So first, the text brings us right back to that powerful sun analogy. We can feel its warmth on our skin, we can see by its light. It's incredibly close to us in that way.
But if you wanted to reach the sun's actual physical core, well, that would require an impossible journey across millions of miles. Proximity and distance, all at once.
To make this even clearer, the text introduces a totally new analogy. This one shifts from the natural world to the world of human hierarchy and command, and this makes the concept even more relatable, I think. Think about it this way. A king's authority and his knowledge are right there with the soldier on the battlefield. His rules govern every single action. So in that sense, the king is infinitely close. But the soldier is infinitely distant from the king's actual person, separated by ranks, protocols, and huge physical distance. This illustrates beautifully how two opposing truths, absolute closeness and absolute distance, can both be totally valid at the same time.
Okay, so if we are so distant from the divine essence, kind of like that soldier is from the king, how can that enormous gap ever be bridged? Well, the text explains that this doesn't just happen through intellectual understanding, it happens through specific acts of worship, which act as a kind of spiritual journey. The 5 daily prayers are presented here as not just a ritual, but as a conscious method of travel. It's a way to move from your limited individual self toward a universal state of being. You're effectively stepping through those veils of distance that we just talked about. And in the same way, the Hajj, or the pilgrimage, is explained as an act that elevates everyone to a universal sphere of worship. It's this incredible event where that conceptual distance between the soldier and the king is temporarily collapsed, and everyone is brought directly into the royal presence, so to speak.
What this all means is that these tangible practices are seen as the actual path for navigating the paradoxes we've been exploring. The repetition of the phrase, "God is most great," isn't just a chant. It's seen as marking each step on that upward journey, acknowledging the grandeur you are approaching with each spiritual threshold you cross.
Ultimately, what this whole exploration of the 16th word really shows us is the incredible power of analogy. The sun, the craftsman, the king, these aren't just simple stories. They are rational bridges. They're tools that allow the finite human mind to begin to grasp truths that might otherwise seem completely contradictory, turning a confusing paradox into a profound kind of sense.